Hello, parents. In this episode, I'm going to share with you Dr. Russell Barkley's 7 key areas of executive functions. Executive function skills or performance or life skills, they are the capacities that are heavily under construction in every teenage brain and the various skills that are at the heart of the deficits caused by ADHD. I am Annie Agin, teen parent and ADHD coach. I create all this free content just for you to make sure that you can parent in a way that is very effective for your teen and to make sure that we can get your teen to blossom into an autonomous, independent, and successful young adult. So please let me introduce you to Dr. Barkley. He is widely respected in the field of ADHD. And I believe that he is the preeminent researcher, professor, clinician, psychologist, and worldwide lecturer of ADHD. He's worked for almost 50 years in this space. I just love him. Well, Dr. Barkley proposes 7 key areas that have kind of emerged as the go to gold standard when trying to wrap our heads around these complex and sophisticated functions that take place in the frontal lobes of the brain. Today, I'm sharing with you his 7 areas of executive functioning. And as you listen to them, I want you to identify the ones that you think are most implicated in your own son or daughter. So here we go. The first is self awareness. Who am I and how do I relate to my immediate environment? Am I aware of my strengths, my weaknesses, and how my actions affect other people? The next one, number two, is inhibition. So, can I control my impulses and can I resist distractions when I need to? Numbers three and four are both working memory. Now, some people call this short term memory, and there are two different kinds. One is verbal working memory, and this one I'm very fond of. I really love this one because it's so important. As long as the brain is conscious and awake, this skill has to be in operation. So, verbal working memory is that voice in your head that tells you what to do and what not to do throughout every moment of every day. It's your inner monologue, which guides your action, like self talk. And the other one is nonverbal working memory. So this one is holding and moving around, manipulating visual images and pictures in your head. Imagine mentally rearranging the furniture in your living room, as an example. You could do that without physically moving. That's your nonverbal working memory. So now on to numero cinco, and numero cinco is emotional regulation. So, for example, when you're driving to work on the road, if you get cut off by somebody, of course you're mad in the moment, but can you just let it slide or do you shift into full road rage? Number six is motivation. And this one I find is really hard for the students that I coach. Activation and task initiation, just getting started, are really tough, especially if they don't have a golden carrot dangling in front of them as incentive. Motivation includes not only starting tasks, but also staying focused, persevering, and finishing through to the end of those tasks. And the last one, number seven, is planning and prioritization. So this one is pretty self explanatory, but just think about how many times in the course of a day you have to quickly pivot to avoid an unanticipated obstacle. That can take a little longer for the ADHD brain to accommodate. So, did you find those 7 descriptions helpful? Um, Let me go down the list one more time. So, it's self awareness, inhibition, verbal working memory, and non-verbal working memory with pictures, images in your brain, emotional regulation. Number 6 is motivation, and 7 is problem solving and prioritization, planning and problem solving. You are not alone if you feel like the executive functions, it's kind of like an abstract, almost theoretical or clinical nomenclature, labels, or thinking. I am not a doctor. I am not a scientist. I am a teacher and I am a master at mind hacks, brain hacks. And this is why I have creds for your teenagers because I give them brain hacks to make their learning easier. And so I have devised a mind hack for you parents, and we're going to we're going to reverse engineer these 7 executive functioning skills to make them easier for you to learn. By doing this, next time your kiddo does something at home, anything that you think is kind of textbook ADHD, what I want you to do is try to identify which of the 7 skills their behavior matches up with. Just see if you can name the skill, and that'll keep it in the front of your mind and keep you sharp. So, we're going to do this together right now. I'm going to read an example, and then I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to see if you can match it up to the name of the skill. So, here we go. Junior procrastinated to the last minute to finish his ELA essay. You can probably guess this one. It's motivation. Next example is Junior blurts out in class at the science teacher, "Are you sure you went to college?" This one's an example of inhibition or lack thereof. Next example, after getting his driver's license and having lived in the same small town his whole life, Junior gets lost while driving home from school. That one is visual working memory. Next example, Junior lays down the carpenter's tape around the molding after he's already started painting the walls. This one falls in the area of planning and problem solving, probably some prioritization there too. Next example is Mom, I just fed the dog, but I can't remember the other 2 chores you told me to do. I bet you got that one. It's verbal working memory. Next example, I have no idea why I'm getting a D in algebra. That example is probably related to self awareness. And lastly, after a hard fought soccer game, Junior storms off the field and refuses to give high fives to all the players. That one is indicative of emotional regulation. Was that exercise helpful to you? I think that by going from a real life example then to its clinical label, it's much easier to understand. So, mom and dad, I challenge you to do the very thing we just practiced at home. You're going to better understand the behaviors that you're seeing in your child by trying to identify them first. And you'll see that by doing that first, it will translate into feeling more empowered and more compassionate toward your teenager. I hope you have found value and education in this episode. And parents, I am always here for you, and I'm doing everything that I can to democratize evidence-based effective strategies so that you can be in the know and always apprised of what you should do, what works for your teen, and why. You don't have to memorize these 7 areas of executive functions by Dr. Russell Barkley. You just need to know about them. They need to be in your hands. And you need to be able to revisit them when you need to and rewatch this recording whenever you want to. This and still more education is ongoing and will always be available and free to you by way of my website. And you can even sign up for free coaching with me, AnnieAdjan.com, ANNIEADJAN. You are never alone. I'm always here for you. Keep learning and growing and loving your child. Until next time, my dear parents, I wish you all A's in every endeavor. Adios.